both of our, okay, I think, is this better outside? Okay, all right, good. Well, I won't repeat everything I just said, but I will repeat that these are not turbine locations. These are meteorological towers that we're seeking a temporary use for. There'll be no disruption of the ground. They don't have a concrete foundation. There's no construction material coming in order to erect these things. We get them out there, you stand them up, you stick in your guy wires. The locations have been approved by the landowners on which for the properties on which they're proposed to go. So those landowners have given us permission to install the towers on their property. And I won't speak for them, but I do know that they are here. So we have obviously their permission to put these towers in their field. And with that said, I may take a seat. I welcome any questions. I'm not sure about process, but I do welcome questions. And if it's okay, I'll turn over to Mr. Foshi to talk about the letter that we prepared.
We will have public comment later on. We'll have public comment.
Good evening, Board. How are you? My name's Tom Forshee. I'm helping Apex out with their application from a legal standpoint. I just want to go through a letter that we submitted a little earlier today.
Gotta talk up!
Okay, I'll do my best. So the section of the ordinance that this falls under is 15.03D, which allows for temporary uses that are not otherwise permitted in the district. The first sentence is, the Zoning Board of Appeals may permit, upon proper application, temporary uses not otherwise permitted in the district. So we're applying for this temporary use. We think it fits with the plain language of the ordinance. It meets all the conditions. There are a set of like 5 conditions underneath 15.03D, and we believe it meets all those conditions. The installation is unobtrusive. It's basically being responsible as far as land use planning, because it's gathering data to plan future land uses. So this is going to be data that can be used by the developer. It's, the township will have data, and it will provide us, valuable information about whether the uses in the future could be viable or not. So I'm happy to answer any questions. There was some contention that we've heard that conditions 2A or 2D would either prohibit or weigh against the granting of the temporary use. However, the proposed use is well within the bounds of the conditions stated by the ordinance. Given the ordinance's express allowance for uses not otherwise permitted, Section 2A could not have thereafter intended to contradict or undo that. So 2A is merely stating that the conditions this is a temporary condition, does not thereafter become a permitted use. So this doesn't confer any permanent right, and Apex is fully aware of that, and they're fully aware of Section 2A and the temporary nature of the use. 2D talks about whether the use is in harmony with the general character of the district. As Albert talked about, this is going to be really unobtrusive. It's really going to be kind of a de minimis, not only on the property itself, but the ordinance talks about the district as a whole. So this is going to have very little effect either on the property itself or the district. So it falls squarely within the bounds of the ordinance. When I looked at the ordinance, I thought, wow, this is really kind of tailor-made for this type of use that's investigatory in nature, because it's not conferring permanent rights. It's just conferring temporary rights to be able to gather this valuable data. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Out here.
About the ordinance itself?
We'll have probably later on.
Okay.
Later
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Questions are different than public comment. I mean, might as well let people ask their questions before public comment just begins.
All right, we have legal authority here. We're gonna give them a little bit more lenience. Time, we have a question. Now we have a question. Stop button.
Can you hear me okay? Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. I'm Cliff Bloom, the Assistant Township Attorney. Can you hear me outside okay?
Yes.
Great. So, again, normally you folks deal with either interpretation appeals or variances. And of course, this is neither. This is a specific finding that you have to make under section 15.03, and you have the language. And even though there's subsections A through F, the standards are in A, B, C, and D. As I understand it, there are two different applications for two different properties. So you really should open the public hearing on one, finish that. You can make a decision on that, or you can do the first hearing, then the second hearing, and make the decision on both. But really, the public hearing should be separated. I know there are folks out in the parking lot who hopefully can hear us on the speakers. So, Mr. Chairman, the way I would suggest is let anyone who wants to make a comment during a particular public hearing inside do that, and then we'll bring the people in one by one from the outside as they want to comment. So if there's any other questions, I'd be glad to answer them. Otherwise, anything comes up throughout the meeting, I'll be glad to address it. Thank you.
Yes, that's kind of what I figured to handle this, is like you said, we would have comments on both, but they will be handled individually at the end of the night or whenever. I agree. Now we have our zoning administrator, Kelsey. He originally denied the request, the application, so it's his turn to speak. Dave, you better come up here and take the mic, they can't want to hear you outside.
Well, I'm Dave Kelsey, and I want to make a little correction. It was just originally 2 times it was said a temporary use variance. It's just a temporary use. It's not a variance. There's a difference in that. It is regulated by the Zoning Board of Appeals. They make a decision on it, which that's the way it's in the book. You know, a lot of times different uses would go to the Planning Commission, but not this temporary use. It's under the section of the ZBA, you know, and that's who regulates it, under whatever number you were saying on that. Originally, there was one permit application for a Met Tower. I denied that. I don't have the date. I have the paperwork back there. And the reason I denied it, they asked for either a special use or a variance. It wasn't a variance, it was a special use, and it wasn't listed as a use, so they couldn't, I had to deny it because it wasn't listed as a special use. So they came back and they applied for 2 of them, which everybody here knows. And they applied for a temporary use. Now, under our guidelines of temporary use, they can apply for that. And, you know, that's where we're at right now. You know, you guys will have to determine if, I don't know what your decision would be based on. I have no idea. That's on you guys, how you determine if you're going to approve it or if you have to. I have no idea on that. I'm not an attorney. So.
Okay, Dan has a question?
I have a specific question for Dave. So you're the zoning administrator, so you are the first person to go to interpret the ordinance.
Correct.
I'm looking at the ordinance, section 1503D1. Says the zoning board of appeals may permit upon proper application temporary uses not otherwise permitted in the district. Such temporary uses shall not exceed a duration of 6. However, the zoning board of appeals may grant one extension of up to an additional 6 concurrent months when appropriate.
Yes.
How do you interpret the first 6?
The first 6, I think that's a typo in our zoning book. They, instead of putting 6 months. They put 6 and left the word month out.
So you believe it's 6 months?
Yes.
Okay, that's what's my opinion
Yeah.
also, but I wanted to
Yeah,
get yours.
that's how I read it. So,
Thank you.
and, I guess that's it. Unless you had a question for me or anything.
Not at this time, Dave, but
Okay.
it'll probably happen. Like I stated before, we do have, not familiar, but we do have some legal representation here. I plan on giving them a little more lenience here with time if they wish to speak. Now would be a good time. Well, they're outside, they can hear me.
No, there is another
He asked if
attorney.
there was any lawyers. that
No,
wanted
I
to
was
speak.
asking for legal. Pardon? Okay, I guess we don't have any more attorneys or spokespeople here.
I'm recording this.
I guess we'll open this up for public comment. What we're
No,
gonna
no
have
public
is,
comment.
you step up to the mic here so everybody can hear you. We're gonna have it on 3 minutes. Can you clock this out? You gonna wait a 10 minutes? 3 minutes? I'll watch the clock, whatever. We're gonna try to hold it down to 3 minutes. If you get over that, we'll just have to cut you off. Shut the microphone. Now this is pertaining, this mission here is zoning board of appeals for the Met Tower. But public comment can be whatever the public wants to make. So, you wanna make a comment, please raise your hand, be recognized, and I want you to state your name, the secretary here. Address if you want. Okay, lady back there.
Brenda Gartsky, and I am on Indian Lake in Winfield Township. Dale, I would like to know, Gartsky? Yeah, Gartzke. Dale, I would like to know, do you plan on voting tonight? Because you have a lease on your property. You should not be included in a vote.
Got it.
Is that something you plan on doing?
I do not have any lease on
Answer
the
that.
properties in question here. I do not have any ties with them.
Not on these, but you have
Nope.
interest
This
in.
is, we're not building towers here or
Okay.
generators or anything like that. If that comes up to where it has something to do with some property that I have any interest in, yeah, I will
Okay.
call out.
Okay.
But as our attorney, I understand I have not a conflict of interest with these 2 parcels that we're dealing with right now.
Okay. Also, we were at a meeting about a week and a half ago, and we were told right up front that you're in no hurry at all to put these towers up, that we've got time to bring in the township people that this is going to affect, and then right around the corner, we've got Met Towers coming up. And nothing was mentioned about that being happening really quick before anybody can, to partake. This meeting really should not have even taken place with nobody being able to be here. A lot of cars turned around as well. But I guess I just wonder what the rush is then, because this has already been in the works. If you've already talked to an attorney and you've got all your ducks in a row, and we were told at the meeting you're in no rush.
Well, there's no rush, but I understand that this was first applicant for this was way back in at least September or beyond that. So It just dropped in here.
No, but nobody found out about this, the windmills, or the turbines, until November. So it was very, very well kept quiet. Yeah.
Hey, Steve, you have a comment?
What we said at the meeting, that we are not in no hurry on getting the ordinance to where there can be any towers. The wind turbines. We are not in no hurry on getting any wind turbines. The ZBA has been about a month already, and it's been published in the paper. It's been also posted on the window. If we didn't state that the ZBA was coming up, I guess I personally want to apologize. But it has been published.
Right, and I know, but it's very unfortunate that the township people can't be here to voice their opinion because of the weather, number one, or a venue to hold it in. So I know my 3 minutes is probably up, so thank you for your time.
Thank you. Yes.
Great. I think we might be confusing or conflagrating two things that are different. As I understand it, currently the township has no regulations on the towers themselves, the turbines. The township is working on an ordinance towards that. So if someone came in tomorrow and filed an application for one of the big towers, the township would turn it down because it's not allowed anymore. So the township is working on the amendment to the zoning ordinance for the big towers. And that could take 2 months or it could take 2 years. So that'll be a fairly long process. The Planning Commission presumably will have multiple meetings and there'll be a public hearing before they make a recommendation to the Township Board. This is a temporary use for the tester tower. And in fact, when someone applies for that, you can't tell them they can't apply. They have every right to apply. If they meet the standards for the test tower, the ZBA has to approve it. If they don't meet the standards tonight, then it'll be turned down. And there's 4 standards. So we're really talking about the permanent large turbines, of which the township is working on an ordinance, versus the temporary use, which again, an applicant has the right to apply for. Absent some type of moratorium, they can't say, no, you can't apply. It's obviously up to the ZBA tonight to apply the standards on whether or not to approve it or deny it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anybody else with public comment? Yeah, please step up there.
My name is Trisha Korhorn, and I'm a Winfield resident. Mr. Ellerich, we delivered a couple letters to your house today. Were you in receipt of those?
Yeah.
Okay, David and Lori Ryder's letter and Thomas Kuhn's.
Yes, I have them.
Okay,
We haven't read them, but we would probably read them after public comment.
Yeah, we would like those to be part of the record, as well as my questions and comments. I think we all look at this special use permit as part of the entire wind project. And yes, we were told at the last meeting that you were taking your time and a wind ordinance would be worked on after input from the residents. And I think we look at any approval of a Met Tower, which is obviously part of the Montcalm Wind Project, as not allowing for that to take place. The hearing notice says that any temporary use issued in writing should stipulate all the conditions included in it as to time, nature, and I look at that as all things that need to be worked out in the wind ordinance and outlined before any approval for anything, including Met Towers.
Yeah. Woo, woo.
including any monetary things that we could run into, timing on how long they're going to be there, all those things that should be worked out in our wind ordinance before there's any approval. And I, as a Winfield resident, would request that the temporary use not be granted until a wind ordinance is in place.
Thank you. Good one.